The moment Lena Zhao's tray tilted and a cascade of crimson wine splashed across Adrian Volkov's pristine white suit, the entire ballroom froze. She didn't know that the man glaring at her controlled half the city's underworld. She didn't know his enemies would use her as leverage, and she definitely didn't know that her sharp-tongued response, calling the most dangerous man in the city spoiled, would make him decide she was exactly what he needed. A contract marriage, 2 years, millions of dollars, her mother's life saved. But some agreements come with blood on the pages. If you're hooked already, stick with me until the end of this story. And don't forget to hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far Lena and Adrian's story travels. The Grand Celestial Hotel ballroom glittered like a jewelry box tipped on its side, spilling diamonds and champagne across marble floors. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light over women in couture gowns and men in custom suits worth more than Lena's annual salary. She moved through the crowd like a shadow, her black server's uniform designed specifically for invisibility. That was the goal, after all. Be invisible, serve the champagne, collect the tips, get out. Lena had perfected the art of disappearing in plain sight over 3 years of working elite events. She'd learned to anticipate needs before they were spoken, to read the subtle gesture that meant more wine or clear this plate. She'd mastered the delicate balance of being helpful without being noticed, present without being seen. Tonight's charity gala benefited the Metropolitan Children's Hospital. Ironic, considering most of the attendees spent more on their watches than the average family spent on healthcare in a lifetime. Lena tried not to think about that. Tried not to think about her own mother, wasting away in a clinic bed 3 miles from here, her body ravaged by stage 4 cancer that insurance refused to fully cover. More champagne? Lena asked softly, appearing beside a cluster of laughing women. They didn't even glance at her, just held out their glasses while continuing their conversation about someone's Maldives vacation. Lena filled each glass with practiced precision, then melted back into the edges of the room. Her feet ached in the standard-issue black flats. She'd been on them since 6 that morning, a double shift at the diner, followed by this evening gala. After this ended at midnight, she'd head to her mother's bedside for a few hours before starting the cycle again tomorrow. Sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford. Neither was pride or dignity or any of the things that used to matter. "Excuse me," a sharp voice cut through her thoughts. "These glasses are smudged." Lena turned to find a woman in a blood-red dress holding up a champagne flute, her expression suggesting Lena had personally offended her ancestors. "I apologize, ma'am. I'll get you a fresh glass immediately." "See that you do." The woman dismissed her with a flick of perfectly manicured fingers. Lena collected the offending glass and headed toward the service station, weaving through clusters of the city's elite. Fragments of conversation drifted past her, mergers and acquisitions, political maneuvering, society gossip. A different world, one she observed but never touched. She was halfway across the ballroom when it happened. A man stepped backward without looking, colliding directly with her tray. The physics were simple and devastating. The tray tilted. 6 glasses of red wine launched into the air in a graceful arc. Time seemed to slow as Lena watched the crimson liquid separate into individual droplets, catching the chandelier light like rubies. Then gravity reasserted itself. The wine crashed down across the back and shoulders of a man in a pristine white suit, the red spreading across the expensive fabric like blood across snow. The ballroom didn't just quiet. It died. Every conversation stopped mid-word, every head turned. The string quartet faltered, their music dissolving into discordant silence. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs as the man turned around. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on ancient coins. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes so pale they looked silver in the chandelier light. He couldn't have been much older than 30, but something about the way he held himself suggested he'd lived several lifetimes already. Those silver eyes locked onto Lena with the focus of a predator identifying prey. "I am so sorry," Lena began, her voice steadier than she felt. "That was completely your fault?" His voice was low, almost soft, but it carried across the silent ballroom like a blade sliding from its sheath. Yes, it was. The people around them had created a wide circle, as if proximity to this disaster might contaminate them. Lena grabbed napkins from a nearby table, stepping forward. Let me help you clean. Don't. The single word stopped her mid-step. Don't touch me. Something hot and sharp flared in Lena's chest. She was exhausted, worried about her mother, and had been treated like furniture all evening. The last thread of her patience snapped. Fine, she said, meeting those cold silver eyes. Maybe if you and your friends watched where you were going instead of treating servers like we're invisible, accidents like this wouldn't happen. The silence somehow deepened. Someone gasped. The man's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those pale eyes. Surprise, maybe, or interest. Invisible? He repeated. Is that what you are? According to everyone in this room, yes. Lena gestured at the crowd of frozen, staring faces. We're supposed to appear when you need something and disappear when you don't. We're not supposed to be people with lives and problems and... She stopped herself, realizing she'd said too much. Way too much. The man studied her for a long moment. What's your name? Lena. Lena Zhao. Well, Lena Zhao. He pulled off his ruined jacket with deliberate care, revealing a black shirt underneath. Do you have any idea who I am? Someone spoiled enough to wear a white suit to an event where wine is being served? The words were out before Lena could stop them. More gasps. Someone actually whimpered, but the man, impossibly, smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a wolf who'd just spotted something unexpectedly entertaining. Adrian Volkov, he said, extending his wine-stained jacket toward her like a challenge. And you just ruined a $15,000 Brioni suit. The name hit Lena like cold water. Adrian Volkov. Everyone in the city knew that name, even if they pretended not to. The Volkov family controlled construction, real estate, shipping, and according to rumors whispered in corners, half the organized crime in the metropolitan area. Lena's defiance evaporated, replaced by the cold reality of what she'd just done. She'd insulted one of the most powerful and dangerous men in the city. A man who could have her blacklisted from every decent job in the state with a single phone call. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. I'll pay for the cleaning or replacement. I can set up a payment plan. A payment plan. Adrian's smile widened fractionally. How much do you make in a year, Lena Zhao? The question felt like a trap. That's none of your business. Humor me. Lena lifted her chin. Between the diner and catering gigs, maybe 30,000 before taxes. So you're offering to pay me half your annual salary for a suit you could never afford in 10 lifetimes. Tilted his head. Interesting. What else do you want me to do? Frustration bled into her voice. Grovel? Beg forgiveness? I apologized. It was an accident. I know it was an accident. Adrian handed his jacket to someone who appeared at his elbow, a compact man in a dark suit who'd materialized from nowhere. If it had been intentional, we'd be having a very different conversation. Then why are you still talking to me? Because most people who bump into me, literally or figuratively, either grovel or run. You did neither. He studied her with those unnerving pale eyes. You called me spoiled. You are spoiled. That suit costs more than my mother's cancer treatment. The words hung in the air between them. Lena hadn't meant to say that, hadn't meant to reveal anything personal. Adrian's expression shifted, something calculating entering his gaze. Your mother is sick? That's none of your business either. Lena! A sharp whisper came from her left. Marcus, the catering manager, had pushed through the crowd, his face pale with panic. Mr. Volkov, I apologize profusely for this employee's behavior. She'll be terminated immediately. No, Adrian said simply. Marcus froze. Sir? She stays. The accident was partly my associate's fault for stepping backward without looking. Adrian's attention never left Lena's face. Though I would like a word with Miss Zhao, privately. That's not necessary, Lena said quickly. I should get back to work. It wasn't a request. The words were pleasant enough, but they carried unmistakable weight. This was a man accustomed to being obeyed. Marcus looked between them, clearly calculating risks. Then he nodded at Lena with an expression that promised a lengthy discussion later. Of course, Mr. Volkov. Whatever you need. Adrian gestured toward the ballroom's terrace. Shall we? Lena followed because refusing didn't seem like an option. Her mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Maybe he wanted to yell at her away from witnesses. Maybe he planned to threaten her job. Maybe... Stop, she told herself. Panicking won't help. The terrace overlooked the city, a sprawling carpet of lights extending to the horizon. The late October air was cool against her flushed skin. Music and conversation drifted from the ballroom behind them, muffled by the glass doors. Adrian moved to the railing, his ruined jacket now gone. In just his black shirt and tailored pants, he looked less like a society prince and more like what the rumors suggested, someone comfortable with violence. "Your mother," he said without preamble. "What kind of cancer? Why do you care?" "Answer the question, Lena." The use of her first name felt strangely intimate. "Pancreatic, stage 4. The chemo isn't working, and the experimental treatment she needs isn't covered by insurance. Costs about $200,000 total." Adrian nodded slowly, as if she'd confirmed something. "And you're working yourself to death trying to afford it." "That's what people do for family." "Some people." He turned to face her fully. "Others abandon their families at the first sign of trouble. Or worse." There was something dark in his tone, a glimpse of old wounds. Lena filed that away. "Look," she said, "if you're going to fire me or sue me or whatever, just do it. I'm too tired for games. I'm not going to fire you or sue you." Adrian leaned against the railing, studying her with that unnerving intensity. "I'm going to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "The kind that could save your mother's life." Lena's heart stuttered. "I don't understand." "You will, tomorrow, 2 p.m. at this address." He pulled a business card from his pocket, heavy stock, embossed lettering, an address in the city's most expensive district. "Don't be late." "I work tomorrow, Sut. Call in sick. This is more important." "More important than keeping my job?" Adrian's smile returned, sharp and knowing. "Much more important, trust me." "I don't trust you. I don't even know you." "Then consider it curiosity. Don't you want to know what I'm offering?" Lena took the card, her fingers brushing against his. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her. "Why me? Why would you want to help a random waitress who ruined your suit?" "Because you're not random. And you're certainly not just a waitress." Adrian straightened, moving closer. He was tall enough that Lena had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "You're someone who speaks her mind even when it's dangerous. Someone who works multiple jobs to save her mother. Someone who isn't afraid to call me spoiled to my face." That was stupid. That was honest. I don't encounter honesty very often. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear in a gesture that felt both practiced and genuine. 2 p.m. Tomorrow, Lena Zhao. Your mother's life might depend on it." Then he walked past her, back into the ballroom, leaving Lena alone on the terrace with a business card and 1,000 questions. The next 14 hours passed in a blur of anxiety and speculation. Lena finished her shift at the gala, enduring Marcus's lecture about appropriate behavior with high-profile clients. She didn't mention Adrian's invitation. Something told her to keep that private. She spent 2 hours at her mother's bedside, watching Susan Zhao sleep fitfully in the narrow clinic bed. Her mother had been beautiful once. Lena remembered photos from before the cancer, before Lena's father had died in a construction accident, before everything had fallen apart. Now Susan looked fragile as paper, her skin waxy, her breathing labored. "I met someone tonight," Lena whispered, holding her mother's cold hand. "Someone who might be able to help. I don't know how yet, but maybe things will get better." Her mother didn't respond. She'd been unconscious more than awake lately. Lena left at dawn, went home to her tiny apartment for a shower and change of clothes, then headed to her morning shift at the diner. She called in sick for the afternoon shift, guilt gnawing at her. She needed every dollar, but Adrian's words echoed in her mind. Your mother's life might depend on it. At 1:30, she stood outside the address on the business card. The building was one of those modern glass towers that looked like it had been carved from a single diamond. The lobby featured marble floors, contemporary art, and a security desk staffed by men who looked like they could bench press cars. Lena approached the desk, feeling severely underdressed in her clean but worn jeans and simple sweater. I'm here to see Adrian Volkov, she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. He's expecting me. Lena Zhao. The guard checked his computer, then nodded. Penthouse level. Use the private elevator on the right. The elevator was all mirrors and polished steel. Lena watched her reflection multiply infinitely as the car shot upward, her stomach dropping with the acceleration. The doors opened directly into a penthouse apartment that belonged in architectural magazines. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic city views. The furniture was minimalist and expensive, all clean lines and neutral tones. Abstract art adorned the walls. Everything screamed wealth and taste. Adrian stood by the windows, his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. He wore charcoal slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Even from behind, he commanded the space. I don't care what Mikhail thinks, he said into the phone, his voice cold. The shipment arrives on schedule, or we find a new distributor. Those are his options. No negotiations. He either delivers or I cut him out entirely. He ended the call and turned, those pale eyes finding Lena immediately. You came. You said my mother's life depended on it. Lena stepped out of the elevator, the doors closing behind her with a soft whisper. So here I am. Punctual. I appreciate that. Adrian gestured toward a leather sofa. Sit. Would you like something to drink? Coffee? Water? Just answers. A slight smile tugged at his mouth. Direct. Also appreciated. He moved to a sideboard, poured himself 2 fingers of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. Last night you told me your mother needs $200,000 for treatment. About that, yes. What if I told you I could write that check today? Lena's breath caught. Why would you do that? Because I need something from you. An exchange. Adrian took a sip of his drink, watching her over the rim of the glass. A business arrangement. What kind of business arrangement could you possibly need from me? Marriage. The word hit like a physical blow. Lena actually laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. I'm sorry, what? Marriage, Adrian repeated calmly. 2 years, fully financed. Your mother receives the best medical care available. You receive a substantial monthly allowance plus $10 million at the end of our contract when we divorce. Lena stood up, suddenly needing distance. This is insane. You're insane. I'm leaving. Hear me out first. Why? So you can explain how you buy wives like you buy suits? I don't buy wives. I'm offering a mutually beneficial business arrangement. Adrian set down his glass. And I think you're practical enough to at least listen to the terms before you walk away from your mother's only chance. The words were brutal and accurate. Lena hated how right he was. She sat back down, her jaw tight. Fine. I'm listening. Adrian moved closer, perching on the arm of the opposite chair. My family business is transitioning from less legitimate operations to fully legal enterprises. Real estate development, construction, shipping logistics. But we carry a reputation. My name carries a reputation. As a criminal. As someone from a criminal family, yes. He didn't deny it. Public perception is critical during this transition. I need to appear settled, stable, respectable. A man with a wife has roots, community ties. He's harder to dismiss as just another thug. So you want a prop. I want a partner. Someone intelligent who can handle society functions, charity events, and business dinners. Someone whose background story is sympathetic, hardworking, devoted daughter, struggling to save her dying mother. The press will love you. And what do you get besides good PR? Legitimacy. Easier permitting for my construction projects. Better financing terms from banks who currently see us as high risk. Access to social circles that are still closed to the Volkov name. Adrian's gaze was steady. Plus it quiets certain elements of my family who think I should have married already. Lena processed this, her mind racing. 2 years? 24 months from the wedding date. We maintain the appearance of a happy marriage, attend events together, live in the same residence. After 2 years, we divorce quietly. You walk away with $10 million, enough to secure your mother's ongoing care and your own future. And during those 2 years, what exactly would this marriage entail? Separate bedrooms? Mutual respect? No infidelity on either side that could create a scandal. I don't care what you do privately as long as it stays private. You'd need to learn some basics about my business for conversation purposes. Attend family functions, play the role of Mrs. Volkov in public. That's it? That's it. A performance. A business contract with benefits for both parties. Lena stood again, moving to the windows. The city stretched below her, millions of lives intersecting, everyone struggling in their own way. Down there, her mother was dying. Here, a dangerous man was offering her a lifeline wrapped in a lie. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "You could hire an actress, someone trained to play roles." Actresses are good at faking emotion, but this needs to feel real, at least from the outside. You're genuinely kind. I saw how you treated the other servers last night, helping when you thought no one was watching. You're resilient, and you have a reason to commit fully to this arrangement. My mother. Your mother, Adrian confirmed. I need someone invested enough to see it through, someone who won't get bored or reckless. You need money desperately enough to consider this seriously instead of just walking out. He was right. She hadn't walked out. What if I say no? Lena turned to face him. Then you leave. I don't force anyone into anything. Your mother continues her current treatment as long as your insurance and funds hold out. His expression didn't change. But we both know how that story ends. The cruelty was in the truth. Lena's mother had maybe 3 months left without the experimental treatment. Maybe. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow morning. Adrian pulled out his phone, tapped something, then showed her the screen. A bank routing number. That's the account where I'll deposit $200,000 if you agree. Your mother can start treatment immediately. And if I agree and then change my mind? The contract will specify penalties for early termination. You'd forfeit the end payment and owe back a portion of the medical expenses. But your mother's treatment would continue regardless. That's guaranteed. It was too much. Too fast. Lena's thoughts tangled around themselves, trying to find the trap, the hidden clause that would destroy her. I don't understand why you'd risk trusting me with this. What if I tell people it's fake? Who would believe you? The desperate waitress claiming the wealthy businessman's marriage is a sham? They'd think you were bitter about something. Adrian stood, moving close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy. Besides, you won't tell anyone, because doing so would destroy the arrangement that's keeping your mother alive. You're essentially blackmailing me with my own love for my mother. I'm offering you a choice. An impossible choice, yes, but still a choice. His voice softened slightly. I could simply write the check and ask for nothing in return, but that would be charity, and I suspect you'd refuse it. This way, you earn it. You provide a service I need, and I provide compensation. It's honest. Lena laughed bitterly. Honest? We're talking about faking a marriage. People fake things all the time. Emotions, interest, friendship. At least we're being honest with each other about the arrangement. Adrian returned to the sideboard, poured a second glass, and offered it to her. One night. Think it over. I'll need your answer by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Lena took the glass but didn't drink. If I agree, when would this start? Immediately. We'd need to move quickly, announce the engagement, plan a wedding within a month. The longer we wait, the less authentic it appears. A month? Lena's head spun. That's impossible. Nothing's impossible with enough money and motivation. I have both. Adrian raised his glass. To impossible choices, Lena Zhao. She didn't toast with him, just held the glass, feeling its weight. I need to see my mother. Before I decide anything, I need to talk to her. Of course. I'll have my driver take you to the clinic. Take as long as you need. Adrian pulled out a business card, different from the first one. My private number. Call when you've decided. Lena took the card, their fingers brushing again. That same electric jolt. She left without another word, her mind a storm of thoughts and fears and desperate, dangerous hope. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and slow death. Lena sat beside her mother's bed, holding that fragile hand, watching the monitors track each labored heartbeat. Mom, she whispered, I need advice. Susan Zhao's eyes fluttered open, lucid for once. Baby girl, you look worried. I am. Lena swallowed hard. Someone offered to pay for your treatment, all of it. The experimental therapy. Everything. A weak smile. What's the catch? I have to marry him. It's a business arrangement. 2 years. Then we divorce, and I walk away with enough money to secure your care forever. Susan studied her daughter's face. Do you love him? I barely know him. Is he kind? Lena thought about Adrian's calculating gaze, his ruthless business calls, the rumors of violence that surrounded his family. But she also remembered how he'd listened when she snapped at him, how he'd offered a choice instead of simply imposing his will. I don't know what he is, but he's offering me something I can't get anywhere else. Then you already know what you're going to do. Susan squeezed her hand with what little strength she had. Take the offer, sweetheart. Give yourself a chance at a real life after I'm gone. Don't talk like that. Lena, baby, I'm dying. We both know it. But if this man can buy me even 6 more months to see you settled, to know you'll be okay. Tears slid down Susan's hollow cheeks. That's all I want, to know you'll survive after I'm gone. I'll survive anyway. No, you'll exist. There's a difference. Susan's grip tightened fractionally. Promise me you'll take this chance. Promise me you'll let someone take care of you for once, instead of carrying everything alone. Lena couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. She just nodded. Her mother smiled, then drifted back into medicated sleep. Lena stayed another hour, then walked outside into the cool night air. She pulled out Adrian's card, his private number embossed in silver. Her hand shook as she dialed. He answered on the first ring. Lena, I have conditions. I'm listening. My mother never knows this is fake. As far as she's concerned, we fell in love. She dies believing I'm happy. Agreed. I want the contract reviewed by a lawyer of my choosing before I sign anything. Reasonable. I'll pay for your legal fees. And if during these 2 years I meet someone I actually care about, we maintain discretion. I told you, I don't care what happens privately, as long as it doesn't become public scandal. Same goes for me. But we're both expected to be faithful in the public eye. Lena closed her eyes, making the choice that would change everything. Then I agree. I'll marry you, Adrian Volkov. Silence on the other end. Then, I'll have the contracts drawn up tonight. Can you come by tomorrow at noon? Yes. Lena? What? You won't regret this. I promise your mother will have the best care available. That's the only reason I'm doing this. I know. Something shifted in his voice, became almost gentle. Get some rest. Tomorrow, your life changes. He ended the call. Lena stood in the clinic parking lot, the card still in her hand, and wondered what she'd just agreed to. She'd sold herself for 2 years, but she'd bought her mother's life. And in that impossible calculation, there had been only one answer she could give. Tomorrow, she would become Adrian Volkov's fiancée. In 1 month, she'd become his wife. And for 2 years, she'd live a lie that somehow had to look enough like truth to fool an entire city. The thought terrified her, but walking away terrified her more. So Lena Zhao, exhausted waitress, devoted daughter, desperate woman, took a deep breath and accepted that her life as she knew it was over. Whatever came next would be something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something impossible. Something that started with a spilled glass of wine and a man who smiled like wolves smile just before they strike. The contract arrived at Lena's apartment by courier at 8 the next morning. A thick leather portfolio carried by a man in a crisp suit who waited while she signed for it, then disappeared as silently as he'd come. Lena spread the documents across her cramped kitchen table, her coffee going cold as she read through page after page of legal terminology. The apartment felt smaller than usual, the walls pressing in as she absorbed the reality of what she was about to do. Marriage agreement between Adrian Mikhailovich Volkov and Lana Marie Zhao. Her hands trembled slightly as she turned pages. Everything Adrian had promised was there in black and white. The 2-year term, the medical coverage for her mother, the monthly allowance of $50,000, the final payment of $10 million upon successful completion. But there were other clauses too, ones they hadn't discussed. She was required to attend all family functions unless explicitly excused by Adrian himself. She would have access to a wardrobe budget, a personal stylist, and a security detail when deemed necessary. She couldn't speak to media without prior approval. Any breach of confidentiality would result in immediate termination of the agreement and financial penalties. The separate bedrooms clause was there, clinical and precise. So was the fidelity requirement. No public affairs, no scandals, no behavior that could damage the Volkov family reputation. At the bottom of the final page was a line for her signature. Lena stared at it for a long time. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Attorney will meet you at my office at noon. Review everything with her first. At least he was keeping his word about legal representation. Lena showered, dressed in her nicest outfit, a simple navy dress she usually reserved for job interviews, and took the bus to Adrian's building. She still had 3 hours before the meeting, but sitting in her apartment had become unbearable. The same guard from yesterday nodded her through. This time, when the elevator doors opened into Adrian's penthouse, she wasn't alone. A woman in her 50s stood by the windows, her silver hair cut in a sharp bob, her burgundy suit perfectly tailored. She turned as Lena entered, her dark eyes assessing. "Ms. Zhao, I'm Margaret Chen, your attorney for this matter." She extended a hand. "Mr. Volkov has retained my services to ensure you fully understand what you're signing." "Where is Adrian?" "Giving us privacy. This conversation is privileged, attorney-client. Whatever you say to me stays between us." Margaret gestured to the dining table, where she'd already spread out her own copy of the contract. "Shall we?" They spent 2 hours going through every clause, every contingency. Margaret was thorough and surprisingly sympathetic. "This is unusual," the attorney admitted, "but it's not illegal. Both parties are adults entering into an agreement with full disclosure. The terms are actually quite favorable to you, Miss Zhao." "Favorable?" Lena laughed without humor. "I'm selling 2 years of my life. You're exchanging 2 years of specific services for substantial compensation and immediate medical care for your mother. Many people make similar calculations when they take jobs they hate to pay bills they can't avoid." Margaret's expression softened. "The question isn't whether the contract is fair legally. It is. The question is whether you can live with it emotionally." "I don't have a choice." "You always have a choice. It's just that some choices cost more than others." Margaret closed this contract. "If you sign this, you're committing to play a role. Can you do that convincingly for 24 months? Lena thought about her mother's face, the hope in Susan's eyes when she'd told her to take the chance. "Yes," she said. "I can do it." Margaret nodded. "Then I recommend you sign. But read this addendum first." She slid across a single page. Lena scanned it, her eyebrows rising. "He's putting the medical payment in an irrevocable trust? That means even if I breach the contract, your mother's care continues. Yes, Mr. Volkov added that this morning." Margaret's tone was carefully neutral. "He was quite insistent that your mother's treatment be completely protected regardless of how the marriage proceeds." Something tight in Lena's chest loosened slightly. Whatever else Adrian Volkov was, he kept his promises. "Okay," she said quietly. "Where do I sign?" 30 minutes later, it was done. Lena Marie Zhao had legally committed herself to marry Adrian Mikhailovich Volkov. Margaret packed up her documents. "He'll want to see you now. And Miss Zhao, whatever happens over the next 2 years, you have my number. If you need legal counsel for anything at all, you call me." "Thank you." The attorney left, and moments later Adrian emerged from wherever he'd been waiting. He'd changed since yesterday, now wearing dark jeans and a black sweater that made him look younger, less intimidating, almost human. "It's done?" he asked. "It's done." He crossed to the sideboard, poured 2 glasses of champagne. "Then we should celebrate our engagement." "Is that what we're calling this?" "That's what everyone else will call it." He handed her a glass. "As of this moment, Lena, we're a couple. The story is simple. We met at the charity gala. I was struck by your honesty and compassion. We've been seeing each other privately for the past few weeks, and I proposed last night. You said yes. No one will believe we've been dating secretly. They will if we sell it properly, which means we need to get our story straight." Adrian gestured to the sofa. "Sit. We have work to do." Over the next 3 hours, they constructed their fictional romance, where they'd had their first real date, a quiet restaurant in the warehouse district. What they talked about: her mother's illness, his business transition, their shared appreciation for old movies. When he'd known she was special, the moment she called him spoiled. When she'd fallen for him, a lie she'd have to figure out how to tell convincingly. Adrian was methodical, anticipating questions reporters might ask, smoothing over timeline inconsistencies. "You're good at this." Lena observed, creating false narratives. I've been managing my family's public image since I was 23. You learn to control the story before it controls you. He made a note on his tablet. We'll announce the engagement tomorrow evening at a small dinner party. Just close family and a few key business associates. Tomorrow. That's too fast. Speed sells authenticity. If we waited months, people would question it. This way, it looks like passion, impulse. A powerful man swept away by an unexpected woman. His pale eyes met hers. They'll eat it up. What about my life, my apartment, my jobs? You'll move in here this weekend. Your apartment lease will be paid through the end of term, so you have it as a safety net if needed. As for your jobs, you'll give notice after the engagement announcement. The story is that I insisted you didn't need to work anymore, and you reluctantly agreed. Reluctantly? You're a woman who values independence. It makes sense you'd hesitate to give up your autonomy, but ultimately you chose to focus on your mother's care and our relationship. Adrian set down his tablet. Every detail has to be believable, Lena. That means basing our story on who you actually are. It was smart, disturbingly smart. What about your family? Do they know this is fake? Something shuddered in Adrian's expression. My father is dead. My uncle Victor manages certain aspects of our legacy operations. My cousin Dmitri handles security. They know this is strategic, but the emotional details are ours alone. So we're lying to them too. We're maintaining professional boundaries. They understand I need a wife for business reasons. They don't need to know the contractual specifics. Adrian stood, moving to the windows. My family is complicated, Lena. You'll meet them tomorrow. Just remember, you're not here to please them. You're here to be my wife, at least in appearance. The possessive language should have bothered her more than it did. I'll need clothes, she said instead. If I'm meeting your family tomorrow, I can't show up in this. Adrian pulled out his phone, sent a quick text. Stylist will be here in an hour. She'll take your measurements and have appropriate options ready by tomorrow afternoon. You have a stylist on call? I have most things on call. A slight smile. Welcome to your new life, Lena Zhao. The stylist arrived exactly 60 minutes later, a whirlwind of a woman named Simone who measured, photographed, and asked pointed questions about Lena's preferences while Adrian disappeared into his office for a series of phone calls. Elegant but approachable, Simone murmured, making notes on her tablet. Strong enough to stand beside Adrian Volkov, but warm enough to be likable. Yes, I can work with this. I'm not a project, Lena said sharply. Simone looked up, something appreciative in her eyes. No, you're not. But you are about to be photographed constantly, judged by people who spend more on shoes than you made last year, and expected to represent one of this city's most powerful families. So unless you want to feel inadequate every time you leave the house, let me help you look like you belong. It was harsh but honest. Lena nodded. 3 hours later, she left Adrian's penthouse with a portfolio of outfit options, a schedule for tomorrow, and a diamond ring on her finger that probably cost more than her entire life to date. The ring had appeared without ceremony. Adrian had simply pulled it from his pocket while Simone packed up. You'll need this, he'd said, sliding it onto her finger. Engagement ring, 3-carat diamond, platinum setting. Wear it starting tomorrow. The weight of it felt foreign. Lena kept catching herself staring at her own hand. That night, lying in her narrow bed in her tiny apartment, she tried to imagine what tomorrow would bring. Meeting Adrian's family, announcing their engagement, stepping into a role she barely understood. Her phone buzzed, a text from Adrian. Sleep well. Tomorrow changes everything. She typed back, no pressure. His response came immediately. You can handle it. You called me spoiled, remember? If you can do that, you can handle anything. Despite everything, Lena smiled. The next evening arrived too quickly. Simone had delivered 3 dress options, each more beautiful than the last. Lena chose the midnight blue, elegant without being flashy, expensive without screaming wealth. The stylist had also sent a team to do her hair and makeup, transforming her into someone who looked like they belonged on Adrian's arm. The woman in the mirror looked like a stranger, polished, sophisticated, nothing like the exhausted waitress who'd spilled wine 3 days ago. Adrian's driver collected her at 7, a silent man named Peter who treated her with careful respect, as if she were already Mrs. Volkov. The drive took them to Adrian's penthouse, where he was waiting in the hallway outside the elevator, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost what Lena used to make in 6 months. His eyes traveled over her slowly. "You look beautiful." "Simone's work." "Simone provided the dress. You're what makes it beautiful." He offered his arm. "Ready?" "No?" "Good. Honesty is important." His hand covered hers where it rested on his arm. "The key players tonight. Uncle Victor, late 60s, old school, believes in traditional values and traditional methods. He'll test you. Stay calm. Cousin Dimitri, early 30s, handles security and enforcement. He'll be sizing you up as a potential weakness in my position. Don't give him ammunition." Comforting. "Then there's Irina Volkov, Victor's daughter, my cousin. She'll either love you or hate you depending on whether she sees you as competition or asset. Be polite, but don't try too hard to win her over." "Anyone else I should worry about?" "Several business associates who are more interested in reading the power dynamics than meeting you personally. Ignore them unless directly addressed." Adrian guided her toward his door. "And Lena? No matter what happens tonight, you're with me. That means you're protected. Remember that." The dinner party was already in progress when they entered. A dozen people clustered in Adrian's living room, conversation pausing as all heads turned. Lena felt the weight of their collective stare, calculating, assessing, judging. Adrian's hand found the small of her back, a gesture of possession and protection. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Lena Zhao, my fiancée." The silence stretched for one heartbeat, two. Then an older man with silver hair and cold eyes stepped forward. Victor Volkov, clearly. He studied Lena like she was a horse he might purchase. "Fiancé," he repeated, his accent thick with Russian vowels. "This is sudden, Adrian." "When you know, uncle." Adrian's tone was pleasant, but carried warning underneath. "Lena and I met at the Metropolitan Hospital Charity Gala. She impressed me immediately." "The wine incident," a woman's voice cut in. Lena turned to find a stunning woman in her late 20s, dark hair swept into an elegant chignon, emerald dress clinging to curves. "Irina." "Everyone heard about that. The waitress who ruined your brioni and lived to tell about it." "Former waitress," Lena corrected, keeping her voice steady. "And he ruined his own suit by backing into my tray." Several people inhaled sharply. But Irina laughed, a genuine delighted sound. "Oh, I like her. She has spine." Victor's expression didn't change. "Pretty girls with spine are common, Irina." Adrian could have his choice of them. "Why this one?" The question was directed at Adrian, but Lena answered. "Because I'm the only one who called him spoiled to his face." She met Victor's cold gaze directly. "And because I don't want anything from him except what he's freely offering." "And what is he offering?" "A partnership, mutual respect. A chance to build something together." The lies came easier than she'd expected. "I'm not interested in his money or his name. I'm interested in him." "Romantic," Victor said flatly. "But naive. The Volkov name comes with burdens you cannot imagine, girl." "Then I'll learn to carry them." Lena lifted her chin. "I've been carrying burdens my whole life. I'm not afraid of weight." Something flickered in Victor's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or reassessment. He nodded slowly. "We shall see." "Adrian, a word?" The two men moved to the far side of the room, heads bent in conversation. Lena felt suddenly exposed without Adrian's presence beside her. Irina materialized at her elbow, pressing a glass of wine into her hand. That was brave. Stupid maybe, but brave. Victor respects strength. Does he respect women? Not particularly, but he respects anyone who doesn't cower. Irina's dark eyes sparkled with amusement. "So, Lena Zhao, what's your real story?" The romantic version was lovely, but we both know Adrian doesn't do anything without strategy. "Maybe I'm the strategy." "Oh, you definitely are. The question is whether you know it." Irina sipped her own wine. "Fair warning, half the people in this room want Adrian's position, and the other half want him dead. As his fiancé, you've just painted a target on your back. Then I'll have to learn to duck." Irina's smile widened. "You know what? I actually might like you. Most women Adrian brings around are either terrified or calculating. You're just real." If only she knew. A tall man approached, broad shoulders, military bearing, scar bisecting his left eyebrow. Dmitri, Lena guessed. Cousin. He nodded to Irina, then fixed Lena with an intense stare. The new addition. Lena Zhao, she said, extending her hand. Dmitri didn't take it. I've had you investigated. Nothing interesting. Small life, small problems. Until now. Should I be flattered or offended? Neither. Just understand that everyone close to Adrian gets vetted. Security concern. His expression was unreadable. Your mother is at Metropolitan Medical Clinic, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. You worked. 3 jobs to pay for inadequate treatment. No criminal record, no significant debts beyond medical bills, no romantic entanglements. Thorough. Always. Dmitri leaned closer, voice dropping. Here's what you need to know, Lena Zhao. Adrian is my cousin and my responsibility. If you hurt him, betray him, or put him at risk in any way, I will personally ensure you regret it. Understood? Understood. Lena held his gaze. And here's what you need to know, Dmitri Volkov. I have no intention of hurting Adrian. This, she gestured between them. Whatever this is, it's real enough for me to take seriously, so you can relax the intimidation routine. Dmitri's scarred eyebrow rose. Then he smiled, sharp and dangerous. Maybe you'll last longer than I thought. He moved away, leaving Lena slightly shaken. Irina squeezed her arm. You're doing well. Just keep breathing and don't let them see fear. I'm terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Just don't show it. Irina glanced across the room where Adrian was still deep in conversation with Victor. He chose you for a reason, Lena. Trust that, even if you don't trust anything else. The evening progressed in a blur of introductions and careful conversations. Business associates probed gently about how she'd captured Adrian's interest. Lena stuck to their agreed story, embellishing just enough to make it believable. Dinner was elaborate. Courses appearing seamlessly, wine flowing, servers moving like ghosts. Lena found herself seated beside Adrian, his hand occasionally finding hers under the table, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this performance. You're doing perfectly, he murmured during one course, his lips close to her ear. Your family is intense. They're protective, in their own way. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Victor gave his approval, by the way. Dmitri too, though he'll never admit it. How can you tell? Because we're both still alive and no one has raised concerns about the engagement. Adrian's smile was slight. In my family, silent acceptance is as good as celebration. After dinner, Victor called for attention, raising his glass. To Adrian and his surprising choice, the old man said, his accent making the words sound both formal and threatening. May this union prove beneficial to all involved. The toast was accepted with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Lena raised her own glass, meeting Adrian's eyes across the rim. For a moment, she almost believed this was real, that she'd actually found someone who looked at her like she mattered, that the warmth in his pale eyes was genuine rather than performed. The moment passed. After midnight, the guests finally departed. Lena found herself alone with Adrian in his suddenly too quiet penthouse. You survived, he said, loosening his tie. Barely. Lena kicked off her heels, her feet aching. Your uncle terrifies me. He terrifies most people. That's his talent. Adrian poured them both water. But he accepted you, which means the family won't challenge the marriage. That was the goal tonight. Everything is a goal with you. Everything is strategy. You'll learn. He studied her for a moment. Your mother starts treatment tomorrow. I had her transferred to Riverside Medical Center, best oncology department in the state. Dr. Sarah Kim will be her primary physician. Lena's breath caught. Thank you. That's more than we agreed. She's your mother, and soon she'll be my mother-in-law, at least on paper. She deserves the best care available. Adrian's expression softened fractionally. You should visit her tomorrow. Tell her about the engagement. She'll want to hear it from you. She'll want details I don't have. Then make them up. Tell her I'm thoughtful and attentive, that I make you laugh, that you feel safe with me. He paused. Tell her whatever will make her happy, Lena. That's the gift you can give her. The kindness in his voice surprised her. For all his calculated moves and strategic planning, there was something genuinely decent underneath. Why are you being so nice about this? She asked quietly. Because, contrary to popular belief, I'm not a monster. I'm a businessman making a practical arrangement, but that doesn't mean I can't ensure everyone benefits. Adrian set down his glass. Peter will drive you home. Pack whatever you want to keep from your apartment this week. The movers will handle the rest on Saturday. I'm really moving in here. We're really getting married. This is what married couples do. The reality hit fresh. In less than a month, she'd be Mrs. Volkov, living in this penthouse, playing house with a man she barely knew. Adrian, she said as he walked her to the elevator. Yes? Earlier, when you touched my hand during dinner, when you looked at me like… She trailed off, unsure how to phrase it. Is any of this real for you? Even a little. His pale eyes held hers for a long moment. I find you interesting, Lena. Genuinely interesting. Whether that develops into something more or remains purely professional, I don't know yet. But I don't fake physical reactions. When I touch you, it's because I want to. That's honest, at least. I promised you honesty. Within the bounds of our arrangement, I'll always give you that. He pressed the elevator call button. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start planning a wedding. The elevator arrived. Lena stepped inside, turning to face him. Adrian? Thank you. For my mother, for tonight, for… She gestured helplessly. All of this, I guess. You're welcome, and Lena, you were magnificent tonight. Every bit the woman I needed beside me. The doors closed on his slight smile. Lena rode down alone, her reflection multiplying in the mirrored walls. The woman staring back looked poised, elegant, like someone who belonged in Adrian Volkov's world. But underneath the dress and makeup and diamond ring, she was still just Lena Zhao, still terrified, still playing a role she barely understood. She just had to play it convincingly for 2 years. And somehow, impossibly, part of her was starting to wonder if the role might become real enough to forget it was ever fake at all. The next morning, Lena stood in the gleaming corridor of Riverside Medical Center, so different from the dingy clinic where her mother had been wasting away. Everything here was pristine. Polished floors, soft lighting, the faint scent of lavender instead of antiseptic and despair. Dr. Sarah Kim met her outside her mother's new private room, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Miss Zhao, your mother is settling in well. We've already begun preliminary tests to determine the best protocol for the experimental treatment. She pulled up a tablet showing Lena charts and scans. I won't lie to you, the cancer is advanced, but this therapy has shown remarkable results in similar cases. We have reason to hope. Hope. Such a dangerous word. Can I see her? Of course, she's awake and asking for you. Susan Zhao looked impossibly small in the large hospital bed, but her eyes were clearer than they'd been in months. The pain medication here was better, Lena realized. Her mother wasn't suffering as much. Baby girl, Susan's smile trembled. This room is bigger than our apartment. Adrian arranged it. Lena sat beside the bed, taking her mother's hand. He wants you to have the best care. This Adrian of yours must be very special. He is. The lie came easier now, softened by practice. Mom, there's something I need to tell you. We're getting married. Soon. Susan's eyes widened. Married? Sweetheart, you barely know him. I know enough. I know he's kind to me. I know he makes me feel safe. I know he loves me enough to do all this for you. Lena squeezed her mother's fragile hand. I know it's fast, but when something feels right, why wait? It was the story they'd constructed, polished until it shined. But watching her mother's face light up with joy, Lena felt something twist inside her chest. Oh, honey, I'm so happy for you. Tears slipped down Susan's cheeks. I was so worried about leaving you alone, but now you'll have someone, a partner, a family. Don't talk about leaving. You're going to beat this. Maybe, maybe not. But either way, I can rest easier knowing you're taken care of. Susan pulled Lena into a weak embrace. When is the wedding? 3 weeks. 3 weeks? But Susan pulled back, alarmed. That's impossible. Not with Adrian's resources. He's handling most of the planning. I just need to show up and look happy. Lena smiled, trying to sell it. Which won't be hard. I want to be there. I need to see my daughter get married. You will be. Adrian's making sure of it. And he was. Dr. Kim had already confirmed they'd arranged transport and medical support so Susan could attend the ceremony. Another detail Adrian had handled without being asked. They talked for another hour, Lena spinning stories about how Adrian had courted her, small moments she invented to make their rushed engagement seem romantic rather than transactional. Her mother absorbed every word, her expression transforming from worry to contentment. When Lena finally left, Susan was smiling, planning what she'd wear to the wedding despite her weakened state, imagining grandchildren she might never meet. The guilt was crushing. Lena made it to the elevator before the tears came. She stood in the corner facing the wall, letting herself crack just for a moment. This was the right choice, the only choice, but that didn't make the lying easier. "Lena?" She whirled. Adrian stood in the hallway, holding 2 coffee cups, his expression concerned. "What are you doing here?" She swiped at her tears, embarrassed. "I wanted to check on your mother's transfer, make sure everything was satisfactory." He handed her one of the coffees. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." "You're crying." "I'm fine," she repeated more firmly. Adrian studied her for a long moment, then gestured down the hall. "There's a garden on the 5th floor. Come with me." It wasn't a question. Lena followed because arguing seemed pointless. The rooftop garden was unexpectedly beautiful, trees and flowers arranged around curved pathways, benches tucked into private corners. Adrian led her to one overlooking the city, far enough from other visitors to ensure privacy. "Tell me what's wrong," he said once they were seated. "I lied to my mother, told her we're in love, that you're this wonderful man who swept me off my feet." Lena stared into her coffee. She was so happy, so relieved. "And I hate that it's all fake." "Is it?" Adrian's voice was quiet. "Of course it is. We have a contract, not a relationship. We have both. The contract defines our parameters, but what develops within those parameters is real." He shifted to face her. "Lena, I didn't lie when I said I find you interesting. That's genuine. And I didn't fabricate my respect for how you're handling this situation. That's real, too." "But you don't love me." "No, I don't love you. Yet." He let the word hang between them. "But I also don't know what might develop over 2 years of living together, sharing space, building something, even if that something is primarily a public image. People have built genuine relationships on thinner foundations. That's not comforting. It's honest, which is what I promised you." Adrian sipped his coffee. "Your mother is dying, Lena. Let her die believing you're happy and loved. Is that really such a terrible thing? It feels cruel. Would the truth be kinder?" "Sorry, Mom. I sold myself into a contract marriage to pay your medical bills. How does that help her rest peacefully?" He was right. Lena hated that he was right. "I just wish—" She trailed off. "What?" "I wish some part of this was real. That would make the lying easier." Adrian was silent for a moment. Then he set down his coffee and turned to fully face her. "What I'm about to say stays between us. Understood?" Lena nodded. "I told you I needed a wife for business reasons. That's true, but it's not the complete truth." His pale eyes held hers steadily. 3 months ago, there was an attempt on my life. Car bomb. I survived because I'd sent my driver ahead to check for exactly that kind of thing, but the message was clear. Someone in the organization wants me gone. Lena's breath caught. "Who?" "I have suspicions, but no proof. Yet, marrying you serves multiple purposes. The public legitimacy is real, but it also sends a message to my enemies. I'm building something permanent. I'm not going anywhere. And anyone who comes after me now also threatens my wife, which changes the political calculation. You're using me as a deterrent. I'm making you part of my armor. There's a difference." Adrian's expression was grim. "I won't lie to you about the danger, Lena. By marrying me, you're stepping into the middle of a power struggle, but I will protect you. That's not in the contract, that's my personal guarantee." "Why tell me this now?" "Because you deserve to know what you're walking into, and because—" He hesitated, something vulnerable crossing his face. "Because I need you to understand that my interest in you isn't entirely calculated. When someone tries to kill you, it clarifies what matters. And what I realized is that I'm tired of being surrounded by people I can't trust. You at least are honest about what you want from me." Money. My mother's treatment. Exactly. Simple, clean, no hidden agendas, no secret plays for power. You need something I can provide, and you're willing to give me something I need in return. That's more honest than 90% of my relationships. Lena absorbed this. When you said I painted a target on my back by becoming your fiancé, I meant it. But the target was inevitable. Either painted by me for strategic purposes or painted by my enemies to exploit a weakness. At least this way you're aware of it. That's supposed to be reassuring? That's supposed to be informative. Adrian's voice softened. I know this isn't what you signed up for, but I need you to be alert, cautious, and willing to listen when my security team tells you something. Can you do that? Lena thought about the bomb, the casual violence that apparently defined Adrian's world, about Dimitri's threat, Victor's cold assessment, the undercurrents she'd felt at last night's dinner. I can do that, she said finally, but I need something from you in return. What? The truth. Always. If there's danger, if something changes, if I need to know something, tell me. Don't protect me with ignorance. Adrian extended his hand. Deal. They shook on it, the gesture somehow more binding than the contract they'd already signed. The next 2 weeks blurred into a whirlwind of wedding preparations. Simone assembled a wardrobe that could fill Lena's old apartment twice over. A wedding planner materialized with books of flowers and venues and catering options. Lena signed off on decisions she barely understood, her life becoming something unrecognizable. She moved into Adrian's penthouse on Saturday, her meager possessions looking lost in the massive closet of her new bedroom. True to his word, Adrian had arranged for separate rooms. Hers was down the hall from his, decorated in soft grays and whites, with a view of the city that still took her breath away. If you want to change anything, tell Simone, Adrian said, appearing in her doorway as she unpacked. This is your home now. Make it feel like it. It doesn't feel real yet. It will. Give it time. He leaned against the doorframe, watching her fold close. We have a fitting tomorrow for your wedding dress. And the engagement announcement goes public tonight. Tonight? Lena's hand stilled. 6 p.m. Press release, coordinated social media posts, interview scheduled for tomorrow morning with the Metropolitan Journal. Adrian's expression was carefully neutral. Once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Last chance to change your mind. Lena looked around the beautiful bedroom, thought about her mother resting comfortably at Riverside, remembered the contract and the choice she'd already made. I'm not changing my mind. Good. Something like relief crossed his face. Then we're really doing this. The engagement announcement exploded across media faster than Lena could have imagined. By morning, her face was everywhere. Society pages, news websites, gossip blogs. Headlines ranged from romantic to scandalous. Waitress to wife. The Cinderella story of Lena Zhao. Adrian Volkov's shocking engagement to mystery woman. Love or strategy? Inside the Volkov Empire's latest power move. The Metropolitan Journal interview was conducted in Adrian's living room. A pleasant woman named Rebecca asking carefully worded questions while a photographer captured them together on the sofa, Adrian's arm around Lena's shoulders. How did you two meet? Rebecca asked, her recorder running. Lena launched into their practice story, Adrian filling in details, their narrative seamless from repetition. They'd rehearsed this, anticipated questions, prepared answers that sounded spontaneous but were actually carefully constructed. And the wine incident? Rebecca's eyes sparkled with interest. Everyone's talking about it. Mortifying at the time, Lena admitted with a laugh that almost sounded genuine. I thought I'd ruined my life along with his suit. Instead, I met my future husband. Love at first sight? Not exactly, Adrian interjected smoothly. More like interest at first sight. Lena was so flustered and defensive. Most people treat me with kid gloves, but she called me spoiled. I found it refreshing. And when did you know she was the one? Adrian's pause felt calculated, but when he spoke, something in his voice sounded real. When I realized I'd rather argue with her than agree with anyone else. She challenges me, makes me think differently. That's rare. Lena glanced at him, trying to determine if he meant it or if he was just exceptionally good at lying. His pale eyes met hers, and for a moment the cameras and Rebecca and the entire performance fell away. There was something in that look, Heat, maybe, or recognition. Something that made Lena's pulse quicken despite herself. Rebecca cleared her throat delicately. The wedding is in less than 2 weeks now. Are you nervous, Lena? Terrified, Lena admitted, but in a good way. This is all happening so fast, but it feels right. More lies. But they were becoming easier, smoother, almost comfortable in their familiarity. After the interview, Adrian had meetings at his office. Lena wandered the penthouse, still feeling like a guest in someone else's home. She found herself in Adrian's study, a room she hadn't explored yet. Unlike the rest of the apartment, this space felt personal. Books lined the walls, actual paper volumes that looked read rather than decorative. The desk was cluttered with papers, a chess set sat half-finished on a side table, and framed photographs clustered on a shelf. Lena studied the photos. A younger Adrian with an older man who shared his features. His father, probably. Adrian and Dimitri as teenagers, both grinning, arms around each other's shoulders. Victor standing stern and proud beside a beautiful woman who must have been his wife, and one that made Lena pause. Adrian, maybe 20 years old, at a grave. His expression was shattered, raw grief written across features usually so controlled. My mother's funeral. Lena jumped. Adrian stood in the doorway, jacket discarded, tie loosened. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. It's fine. Like I said, this is your home now. You're allowed to explore? He moved to stand beside her, looking at the photograph. She died when I was 19. Cancer, actually. Similar to your mother's case. I didn't know. Not many people do. My father kept it quiet. Didn't want the family to look weak. Adrian's voice was distant. I watched her waste away for 18 months while my father focused on business, on maintaining appearances, on everything except the woman dying in front of him. Lena understood suddenly. That's why you added the irrevocable trust for my mother's care, why you made sure she'd be protected even if the marriage fails. I won't let anyone else watch their mother die for lack of resources. Not if I can prevent it. He turned to face her. My father taught me business, taught me strategy, taught me how to read people and manipulate situations. But he never taught me how to be human, how to care about something beyond profit and power. And you think I can teach you that? I think you already do it naturally. The way you talk about your mother, the way you handled my family, the way you're navigating this impossible situation with grace, that's not something that can be learned from a book. Adrian's expression was softer than she'd ever seen it. I'm not good at emotions, Lena. I'm good at transactions. But maybe over 2 years, some of your humanity might rub off on me. That's a lot of pressure. You handle pressure well, I've noticed. He smiled slightly. Besides, you've already changed one thing. I find myself wanting to be honest with you. That's not something I'm comfortable with normally. Why me? Because you're honest with me. You don't want my power or my connections or anything except what we explicitly agreed to. That's rare and valuable. He moved closer, close enough that Lena could smell his cologne. Can I ask you something? Yes. When I touch you, like this. His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb brushing her cheekbone. Do you feel anything? Or is it all performance for you? Lena's breath hitched. His palm was warm against her skin, the gesture intimate in a way their contract hadn't prepared her for. I feel something, she admitted quietly. Good. His thumb traced to her lower lip. Because I need to know if kissing you will be torture for you or just strange. Why do we need to kiss? Wedding ceremony, public appearances, maintaining believability. His eyes dropped to her mouth. But I won't do it without knowing you're okay with it. Lena's heart hammered. This was still part of the arrangement, she reminded herself. Physical affection for public consumption, nothing real. Except Adrian's hand on her face felt real. The heat in his eyes looked real. The way her body responded felt devastatingly real. I'm okay with it, she heard herself say. Then we should practice. Make sure it looks natural. Now? Why not? No one's watching, no pressure, just... He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. Practice. His lips brushed hers softly, questioning. Lena's eyes fluttered closed. The kiss was gentle, almost chaste, but it sent electricity racing through her veins. Adrian pulled back fractionally. Okay? Okay. He kissed her again, deeper this time, his free hand sliding to her waist. Lena's fingers found his shirt, gripping the fabric as the kiss intensified. This was supposed to be practice, professional necessity, but it didn't feel professional. It felt like falling. When they finally broke apart, both breathing harder, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "That'll work," he said roughly. "That'll definitely work." Lena couldn't speak, couldn't process what had just happened or what it meant or how she felt about it. Adrian stepped back, professional mask sliding back into place. "I have calls to make. Dimitri wants to brief you on security protocols tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., conference room downstairs." Then he left, leaving Lena alone with the photographs and the ghost of his kiss on her lips. That night, lying in her too large bed in her too beautiful room, Lena touched her mouth and tried to convince herself it had just been practice. The security briefing was intense and terrifying. Dimitri laid out protocols with military precision, where Lena could go, who she could talk to, how to identify threats, what to do if something went wrong. "You'll have a protection detail anytime you leave the building," he explained, showing her photos of the men who'd been assigned to her. "Discreet but present. Peter will be your primary driver. These two, Marcus and Jin, will rotate as close protection when needed." This seems excessive. Someone tried to kill Adrian 3 months ago. They'll try again. And now you're a potential target too. Dimitri's scarred face was grim. "Take this seriously, Lena. Your life depends on it." "Has there been a specific threat?" "Not yet. But in our world, threats don't always come with warnings." He pulled up images on his tablet. Men with hard faces, criminal records, known associates of rival families. These are people who'd like to see the Volkov family weakened. If they can't get to Adrian directly, they'll look for softer targets, like you. Lena studied the faces, committing them to memory. This was her reality now, not just designer clothes and charity galas, but bodyguards and threat assessments, and the constant knowledge that someone might want her dead simply for being Adrian's wife. "I understand," she said finally. "Good." Dimitri's expression softened fractionally. "For what it's worth, you're tougher than you look. That helps." "Thanks?" "It's a compliment. Adrian chose well." He closed his tablet. "The wedding venue has been secured and swept, guest list vetted. We'll have a full security detail that day, but try to enjoy it anyway. It's still your wedding, even if it's also a strategic event." After Dimitri left, Lena found Adrian in his study, working through a stack of contracts. "Your cousin is intense." "Dimitri takes security seriously. It's what keeps me alive." Adrian looked up from his papers. "He's right, though. You need to be careful." "I will be." Lena moved to the windows, looking out at the city. "This is really happening, isn't it? In 10 days, I'll be your wife." Having second thoughts? "No, just absorbing the magnitude of it all." She turned to face him. "Last night, when you kissed me, was that really just practice?" Adrian set down his pen, giving her his full attention. "Do you want it to be just practice?" "I don't know what I want. This is all so confusing." "Then let's simplify it." He stood, moving around the desk to lean against it. "Here's what I know. I'm attracted to you. That's not fake. I enjoy your company. Also not fake. I respect how you're handling this situation. Definitely not fake. Whether those things develop into something more significant or remain surface-level attraction, I don't know yet. And if they do develop into something more, then we adjust accordingly. The contract doesn't prevent real feelings, Lena. It just defines minimum requirements." Adrian's pale eyes held hers steadily. "What are you afraid of?" "Falling for someone who sees me as a business transaction." "I see you as a person making an impossible choice for someone she loves. That's not a transaction. That's sacrifice. And I respect the hell out of it." He moved closer. "I can't promise you love, Lena. I don't know if I'm capable of that. But I can promise respect, honesty, and genuine care for your well-being. Is that enough?" It should have been disappointing. Instead, it felt like the most honest thing anyone had ever said to her. "It's enough," she said softly. "For now." Adrian smiled, genuine, without calculation. "Then let's get through this wedding. Everything else we'll figure out as we go." The next week dissolved into final preparations. Dress fittings, menu tastings, rehearsals with the wedding planner. Lena's old life felt like a distant dream. The diner, her cramped apartment, the constant exhaustion. Now she lived in luxury, wore designer clothes, and was about to marry one of the most powerful men in the city. Her mother's treatment was working. Dr. Kim reported that Susan was responding better than expected to the experimental therapy. She'd be strong enough to attend the wedding, possibly even walk Lena down the aisle. "This is a miracle," Susan said during one of Lena's visits, her voice stronger than it had been in months. "Adrian giving me this chance. You finding love. All of it." Lena smiled and held her mother's hand and didn't mention the contract or the danger or the fact that love had nothing to do with why she was marrying Adrian Volkov. The night before the wedding, Adrian took her to dinner, just the two of them, at a quiet restaurant far from prying eyes. "Last night of freedom," he said, raising his wine glass. "How do you feel?" "Terrified, excited, confused." Lena sipped her own wine. "Ready, I think." "No running away at midnight? Where would I run? And why? You've kept every promise, Adrian. My mother is getting better. I have security, comfort, purpose. This arrangement is working exactly as you said it would. But sometimes I forget it's an arrangement, and that scares me." Adrian reached across the table, taking her hand. "Then let's make a new deal right here. For the next 2 years, we don't overthink what this is or isn't. We just be." Two people sharing space, building something together, seeing what develops naturally. No expectations beyond what we've already agreed to. And after 2 years, we reassess. Maybe we part as friends, maybe something else, but we give it an honest chance instead of constantly analyzing whether it's real or fake. Lena looked at their joined hands, his fingers strong and warm around hers. "That sounds nice, almost too nice. Tomorrow, you become my wife." "That deserves at least the possibility of being nice." Adrian squeezed her hand gently. "I can't give you a fairy tale, Lena, but I can give you honesty, partnership, and protection. Let that be enough." And sitting there, the night before her wedding to a man she'd known for 3 weeks, Lena decided that maybe enough was actually more than she'd ever expected to have. "Okay," she said, "let's see what happens." Adrian smiled, and something in that smile made Lena's heart skip despite all her careful defenses. Tomorrow, she'd walk down an aisle toward a future she couldn't quite imagine. Tomorrow, she'd speak vows that were both binding and fake. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, she was just Lena, sharing wine with someone who saw her clearly and wanted her anyway. For now, that was enough. The morning of the wedding arrived with unseasonable warmth, sunlight flooding through the penthouse windows like a benediction. Lena woke to find Simone already in her room, a team of stylists setting up equipment with quiet efficiency. "Big day," Simone said, her voice gentler than usual. "How are you holding up?" "Ask me after I've had coffee." "Already brewing, and I brought pastries from that French place you mentioned liking." Simone gestured to a table laden with breakfast. "Eat, you'll need your strength." The next 4 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Hair swept into an elegant updo, makeup applied with artistic precision, the wedding dress, ivory silk that flowed like water, carefully fitted and fastened. Lena watched her transformation in the mirror, seeing a bride emerge from the exhausted waitress she'd been just weeks ago. "You look beautiful," her mother whispered from the doorway. Lena turned to find Susan in a wheelchair, dressed in pale blue, looking stronger than she had in months. Dr. Kim stood behind her, smiling. "Mom," Lena's voice broke. "You're here. Did you think I'd miss this?" Susan's eyes shimmered with tears. "My baby girl getting married. I wouldn't miss it for anything." They embraced carefully, Lena mindful of her mother's fragility. When they pulled apart, Susan cupped Lena's face in her thin hands. "You're radiant, happy." "That's all I ever wanted for you." She glanced at Dr. Kim, who nodded and stepped out to give them privacy. "Lena, I need to tell you something before you do this." "What is it?" "I know." Susan's voice was soft but certain. Lena's heart stopped. "Know what?" "That this marriage isn't exactly what you've told me. That it started as something practical, something to save my life." Susan smiled at Lena's shocked expression. "Sweetheart, I'm dying, not stupid. A man like Adrian Volkov doesn't fall in love with a waitress in 2 weeks without some other factor at play." "Mom, let me finish. I don't know the exact arrangement, and I don't need to. What I know is that you made a sacrifice for me, a huge one. And I also know that whatever this started as, I've watched you change these past weeks. I've seen how you talk about him, how your face lights up when he visits, how you look at each other when you think no one's watching. Susan squeezed Lena's hands. Maybe it started as a transaction, but I don't think that's what it is anymore, not entirely. Lena couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. So here's my blessing, baby girl. Not for the arrangement, but for whatever this is becoming. Whatever happens next, I want you to give it a real chance. Don't let fear or guilt or the memory of how it started stop you from finding something genuine. Susan's smile was knowing. Sometimes the best things start from the strangest places. I love you, Lena whispered. I love you too. Now go marry that intimidating man and see where life takes you. The ceremony was held at the Astoria estate, a historic mansion overlooking the river. Lena had barely processed the venue during the planning. Simone and the wedding coordinator had handled everything. Now, standing in the bridal suite waiting for her cue, she understood why Adrian had chosen it. The estate was beautiful, but not ostentatious. Elegant without being cold. A place that spoke of permanence and tradition without feeling suffocating. Through the window, she could see guests arriving. Society elite mixed with Adrian's business associates. Security personnel in dark suits positioned strategically throughout the grounds. Dmitri was everywhere at once, speaking into his wrist mic, his scarred face set in lines of concentration. Miss Zhao! A coordinator appeared at her door. It's time. Lena's heart hammered as she made her way to the entrance of the mansion's grand ballroom. Through the doors, she could hear string quartet music, the murmur of assembled guests. Her mother waited in the wheelchair, Peter standing ready to push it slowly down the aisle ahead of Lena. Susan looked up, her expression radiant despite her illness. Ready, baby? Lena nodded, not trusting her voice. The doors opened. The music swelled into the wedding march. Peter began pushing Susan's wheelchair forward, and Lena followed, her bouquet trembling slightly in her hands. The ballroom was transformed. White flowers everywhere, roses and lilies and orchids, their scent almost overwhelming. Candles flickered in crystal holders, sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting everything in golden light. But Lena barely noticed the decorations. Her attention locked on the man waiting at the altar. Adrian stood perfectly still, hands clasped in front of him, wearing a tailored black tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped out of a classic film. But it was his face that caught her. The moment he saw her, something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or wonder. He looked at her like she was something precious. The walk down the aisle felt eternal and too short all at once. Lena was aware of faces turning to watch her, Victor's calculating gaze, Irina's approving smile, Dimitri's protective surveillance. But she kept her eyes forward, on Adrian, on the man who'd offered her an impossible choice and somehow made it bearable. When she reached the altar, Adrian extended his hand. Lena took it, feeling the warmth of his palm, the slight tremor that matched her own. You look stunning, he murmured, quiet enough that only she could hear. You clean up pretty well yourself. His slight smile steadied her. This was still Adrian, still the man who'd been honest with her from the beginning, who'd kept his promises, who'd kissed her in his study like she mattered. The officiant began speaking, words about love and commitment and partnership that felt both fitting and ironic given their circumstances. Lena tried to focus, but her awareness centered on Adrian's hand holding hers, his thumb tracing small circles on her palm. Then came the vows. Adrian went first, his voice steady and clear. I, Adrian Mikhailovich Volkov, take you, Lena Marie Zhao, to be my wife. I promise to protect you, to respect you, to stand beside you through whatever comes. I promise to be honest with you, to listen when you speak, and to value the strength you bring to my life. From this day forward, you are mine to protect, and I am yours to rely upon. The traditional words modified to reflect their truth. Protection and honesty, not romantic love, but delivered with such sincerity that Lena almost believed he meant more than the contract required. Her turn. She'd memorized these words, but suddenly they felt heavier than expected. I, Lena Marie Zhao, take you, Adrian Mikhailovich Volkov, to be my husband. I promise to stand with you, to support your goals, to bring honesty and compassion to our partnership. I promise to face challenges beside you, to build something meaningful together, and to honor the commitment we're making today. From this day forward, I am yours to stand with, and you are mine to trust." Their vows completed, the officiant smiled. "The rings?" Dmitri stepped forward with a velvet box. Adrian took out a platinum band embedded with diamonds, slipping it onto Lena's finger to join the engagement ring already there. "With this ring, I thee wed." Lena's hands shook as she took Adrian's ring, a simple platinum band, elegant and understated. She slid it onto his finger, struck by how permanent the gesture felt. "With this ring, I thee wed. By the power vested in me," the officiant proclaimed, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Adrian's hand came up to cup Lena's face, the gesture familiar from their practice in his study. But this kiss was different, performed for an audience, yes, but carrying weight beyond performance. His lips met hers softly at first, then deepening as Lena's hands found his lapels. The ballroom disappeared. The guests vanished. There was only Adrian kissing her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, applause erupted around them. "Mrs. Volkov," Adrian murmured against her lips. The name sent a thrill through her that she couldn't quite analyze. They turned to face their guests, and Lena caught her mother's expression, pure joy, tears streaming down her face. Whatever Susan suspected about their arrangement, she believed in this moment, believed her daughter had found happiness. Lena held tight to Adrian's hand and let herself believe it too, just for now. The reception was elaborate and overwhelming. Lena and Adrian moved through the crowd together, accepting congratulations, posing for photographs, playing their roles perfectly. Victor cornered them near the champagne fountain, his expression less severe than usual. "You did well, girl," he told Lena. "The family accepts you." "Thank you." Lena managed not to sound sarcastic. "Adrian, a word." Victor gestured to a quiet corner. Adrian squeezed Lena's hand. "I'll be right back." Lena found herself immediately surrounded by society women, all offering congratulations with varying degrees of sincerity. She smiled, thanked them, deflected invasive questions about when they'd start having children. Irina rescued her after 15 minutes, pulling Lena onto the terrace. "You need a break from the vultures," Irina said, handing her a glass of champagne. "How are you holding up?" "I'm married. That's still sinking in. To Adrian Volkov, no less. That's a lot to process." Irina studied her. "Can I ask you something, and will you give me an honest answer?" "Depends on the question." "Do you love him? Actually love him, not just the idea of him or what he can provide?" Lena considered lying, then remembered her mother's words. "Give it a real chance." "I don't know yet," she admitted. "I care about him. I respect him. I'm attracted to him. Whether that's love or could become love, I honestly can't say." "That's fair. More honest than most brides would be." Irina sipped her champagne. "For what it's worth, I think you're good for him. Adrian's been alone too long, surrounded by people who want something from him. You seem to want him for himself." If only that were true. The reception continued late into the evening. First dance, Adrian held her close while they swayed to a classical piece, his hand warm on her back, their bodies moving together with surprising ease. "You're a good dancer," Lena observed. "Mandatory lessons growing up. My mother insisted." His voice held a note of nostalgia. "She said a man who couldn't dance was a man who couldn't navigate society." "She sounds wise." "She was. You would have liked her." Adrian's eyes met hers. "She would have liked you too. Your courage, your loyalty to your mother, those things she valued." "I wish I could have met her." "So do I." He pulled her closer, his cheek against her temple. "Are you okay?" "I know this is a lot." "I'm okay." "Overwhelmed, but okay. We can leave early if you want. Sneak out the back, go home." Home. The penthouse was home now. Their home. "Not yet," Lena said. "My mother is having the time of her life watching me dance with my husband. Let's give her this." Adrian's expression softened. "You're a good daughter, Lena Volkov." The name still sounded strange, but not entirely unwelcome. They were cutting the cake when everything went wrong. The first sign was Dmitri appearing at Adrian's elbow, his face grim, speaking urgently into Adrian's ear. Lena saw her husband's expression change, from relaxed to alert in an instant. "What's wrong?" she asked quietly. "Not here." Adrian's hand found hers, gripping tight. "Dmitri, get everyone to the safe room, now. What's happening? Lena's heart raced. Unknown vehicles approaching the estate. Too many, too fast. Dmitri was already speaking into his wrist mic. Security personnel moving into position. Could be nothing, could be everything. We're not taking chances. The next minutes dissolved into controlled chaos. Dmitri's team efficiently herded guests toward the mansion's reinforced interior rooms. Victor and his people moved with practiced ease, clearly familiar with security protocols. Society guests looked confused and frightened. Adrian kept Lena close, one arm around her waist as they moved with the crowd. My mother, Lena started. Peter's got her. She's already secure. Adrian's voice was calm, but his body was tense, alert. Stay with me. Don't leave my side for any reason. They'd almost reached the safe room when the first explosion rocked the estate. The sound was deafening, a massive boom that shattered windows and sent guests screaming. Lena stumbled, Adrian catching her, pulling her against him protectively. Move! Dmitri shouted, his weapon drawn. Everyone inside, now! Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered and died, emergency lighting kicking in with eerie red glow. Gunfire erupted outside, sharp cracks that made Lana's blood run cold. This wasn't a drill or a precaution. Someone was actually attacking their wedding. Adrian pushed Lena ahead of him toward the safe room, his body between her and the door. They'd almost made it when a section of wall exploded inward, debris flying. Lena felt Adrian jerk, heard his sharp intake of breath. When she turned, she saw blood spreading across his white shirt, a piece of shrapnel embedded in his shoulder. Adrian! I'm fine, keep moving. His face was pale but determined. You're bleeding. Flesh wound. Move, Lena. Now! He practically shoved her through the safe room door. Inside, the scene was pandemonium. Guests huddled together, some crying, others frozen in shock. Lena's mother sat in her wheelchair near the back, Peter standing guard, looking terrified but resolute. Dmitri sealed the door behind them, the heavy steel sliding into place with a solid thunk. The room was designed to withstand assault. Reinforced walls, independent air supply, communications equipment. Status? Adrian demanded, ignoring the blood soaking his shoulder. 6 vehicles, approximately 20 hostiles, professional team, heavy weapons. Dmitri was already at the communications console. Police are 3 minutes out. Our perimeter team is holding, but they're outgunned. Who? Adrian's voice was ice. Don't know yet. Could be Kozlov making a move. Could be someone else using the wedding as opportunity. Dmitri glanced at Adrian's wound. You need medical attention. After. Right now, I need to know my wife is safe. Adrian turned to Lena, his pale eyes intense. Are you hurt? No, but you are minor. Lena, listen to me. He gripped her shoulders, leaving bloody handprints on her wedding dress. Whatever happens next, you stay in this room until Dmitri or I personally come for you. Understood? Don't open that door for anyone else. Where are you going? To end this. These people attacked my wedding, threatened my family, put you in danger. His expression was colder than Lena had ever seen it. That requires a response. Adrian, you're injured. I've fought with worse. He pulled her close, kissing her hard. Stay safe. That's an order from your husband. Then he was moving toward a secondary exit, Dmitri and 3 security personnel following. The door opened and closed in seconds, leaving Lena with the terrified guests and her own racing heart. Victor appeared at her side, surprisingly steady for a man in his 60s. Your husband is going to do something stupid and brave, he said calmly, but he's good at both, so try not to worry too much. How can I not worry? He's bleeding. Adrian survived worse, much worse. Victor's expression was almost gentle. He's protecting you, Lena, protecting what's his. That's what Volkov men do. Outside the safe room, the gunfire intensified. Lena pressed her hand against the steel door, as if she could somehow sense what was happening beyond it. Her mother wheeled closer, reaching up to take Lena's hand. He'll be okay, Susan said softly. That man would walk through fire for you. You don't know that. This started as a business arrangement. No arrangement makes a man look at a woman the way he looks at you. No contract puts that expression on his face when you walk down the aisle. Susan squeezed her hand. Whatever this started as, it's become something else. Trust that. Lena wanted to believe it. Desperately wanted to believe that Adrian's protectiveness was more than duty, that his kiss before he left meant something beyond maintaining appearances. The minutes crawled by. Gunfire continued in sporadic bursts. Someone was crying. Irina moved through the crowd, offering calm words and steady presence. Then, abruptly, silence. Lena's heart stopped. The quiet was somehow worse than the violence. "What's happening?" someone whispered. No one answered. They waited, barely breathing, for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Finally, the communications console crackled to life. Dimitri's voice, rough but triumphant. "Secure. Hostiles neutralized. Police have the survivors in custody." Relief swept through the room. Lena sagged against the door, her legs suddenly weak. "Adrian?" she called into the console. "Is Adrian—" "I'm here." His voice, tired but alive. "Open the door, Dimitri. Let me see my wife." The heavy door unsealed with a hiss. Lena pushed through before it was fully open. Adrian stood in the hallway, covered in blood and dust and debris. His tuxedo was ruined, his shoulders still bleeding, his face smudged with soot. He looked like he'd walked through a war zone. He'd never looked more beautiful to her. Lena ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck despite the blood and grime. Adrian caught her, pulling her close with his good arm, burying his face in her hair. "You're okay," she breathed. "You're okay. I promise to protect you. That includes eliminating threats." His voice was rough against her ear. "Are you hurt? Did anything—" "I'm fine. But you need a doctor. Later. Right now I need this." He held her tighter and Lena felt him trembling. Fear or adrenaline or both. They stood like that for a long moment. Bride and groom reunited after their wedding was transformed into a battlefield. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian cupped her face in his bloody hand. "I'm sorry. This was supposed to be a beautiful day for you. Instead you protected everyone here, kept us safe, handled a crisis like you were born for it." Lena smiled despite her tears. "Very heroic, Mr. Volkov." "Just doing my job, Mrs. Volkov." He kissed her softly. "Though next time someone attacks our wedding, I'm requesting a refund from the venue." The absurdity made Lena laugh, sharp and slightly hysterical, but real. Behind them, guests were emerging from the safe room, shell-shocked but unharmed. Police swarmed the estate, paramedics treating minor injuries. The aftermath of violence was clinical and surreal. Dimitri appeared with a medic who immediately began working on Adrian's shoulder. The shrapnel was removed, the wound cleaned and bandaged. "You'll need proper treatment at a hospital," the medic said. "Later," Adrian repeated. "First, I want to know who's responsible." "Kozlov's people," Dimitri reported. 3 survivors confirmed it. He decided the wedding was the perfect opportunity to eliminate you and throw the family into chaos. "Miscalculated." Adrian's voice was cold. "Where is he now?" "Safe house on the east side. Police are moving on it as we speak." Dimitri's expression was grim. This was his last chance, Adrian. He committed everything to this attack. When it failed, he lost. "Good." Adrian swayed slightly, Lena catching his good arm. "Hospital," she said firmly. "Now, before you pass out and ruin your dramatic hero moment." Adrian smiled despite the pain. "Yes, ma'am." They rode to the hospital together, Lena still in her blood-stained wedding dress, Adrian's head resting on her shoulder. Dimitri drove while speaking urgently into his phone, coordinating with police and family members. At the hospital, Adrian was whisked into surgery to properly repair the shoulder wound. Lena waited in a private room, Irina keeping her company, while Victor handled the police statements and media spin. "Your wedding made the news," Irina said, showing Lena her phone, "though not quite the way you planned. The headlines were dramatic. Volkov wedding attacked. Gang violence erupts at society event. New bride safe after dramatic rescue." Lena's photo was everywhere, in her wedding dress, looking terrified but determined. And Adrian, bloody and protective, every inch the dangerous hero. "At least you'll have interesting stories for your grandchildren," Irina offered. Lena laughed weakly. "Assuming we survive long enough for grandchildren." "You will." Kozlov was the last major threat to Adrian's position. With him gone, the transition to legitimate business becomes easier. Irina squeezed her hand. "Today was terrifying, but it also proved something important." "What?" "That you and Adrian are a real team. The way you moved together during the crisis, the way he protected you, the way you stood strong, that's not fake. Contract or no contract, you two work." Maybe Irina was right. Maybe what had started as a transaction had transformed during the chaos into something genuine. 3 hours later, Adrian emerged from surgery, groggy but stable. Lena sat beside his bed, holding his uninjured hand. "Hey," he murmured, his eyes unfocused from anesthesia. "Hey yourself, how do you feel?" "Like I got married and fought a small war on the same day." He managed a weak smile. "Sorry about the honeymoon. This probably wasn't what you had in mind." "We didn't plan a honeymoon." "Right, business arrangement." His thumb traced her knuckles. "Lena?" "Yes?" "When I saw that wall explode, when I realized you could have been hurt." He paused, struggling with words or drugs or both. "I wasn't thinking about the contract. I was thinking that I couldn't lose you, that you'd become important." Lena's heart stuttered. "Adrian, let me finish. Before the drugs wear off and I remember how to be guarded." His pale eyes met hers, unfocused but sincere. "I think I'm falling for you, actually falling for you. And I don't know if that's allowed in our arrangement, but I thought you should know." He fell asleep before Lena could respond, his hand still holding hers. She sat there in the quiet hospital room, watching her husband sleep, and realized something terrifying. She was falling for him too. This marriage that had started as a desperate bargain, a sacrifice for her dying mother, a calculated business move, it had become real somewhere along the way. And Lena had no idea what that meant for the contract, the timeline, or the future they'd carefully negotiated. All she knew was that when Adrian had walked into danger to protect her, when he'd pulled her close in the aftermath and trembled with relief, when he'd confessed his feelings under the honesty of anesthesia, something had shifted. The performance had become truth. The arrangement had become love. And Lena Zhao Volkov, exhausted bride in a blood-stained dress, sat beside her wounded husband and let herself feel it fully for the first time. She'd married Adrian Volkov to save her mother's life, but somewhere in the chaos and contracts and carefully constructed lies, she'd fallen in love with him for real. The question was whether Adrian would remember what he'd said under anesthesia, and whether Lena had the courage to tell him she felt the same way. She didn't have to wait long for the answer to the first question. Adrian woke fully the next morning, his eyes clear and focused when they found her still sitting beside his bed. "You stayed all night," he observed, his voice rough from sleep and medication. "Where else would I be?" "You're my husband." The word felt different now, weighted with meaning it hadn't carried before. Adrian studied her face, something vulnerable in his expression. "I said things yesterday, after surgery. Do you remember?" Lena's heart raced. "You said a lot of things. The drugs made you chatty." "Don't make me say it again sober if you already know what I'm asking." He reached for her hand. "Please." She could let him off the hook, could pretend she didn't remember, could keep things simple and professional and safe within the bounds of their contract. Instead, she chose honesty. "You said you were falling for me, that I'd become important." Lena met his gaze directly. "And before you try to take it back or explain it away, you should know something. I'm falling for you too." Adrian's breath caught. "Lena, I don't know when it happened exactly. Maybe when you added that trust for my mother. Maybe when you kissed me in your study. Maybe when you walked into gunfire yesterday to protect everyone I care about." She squeezed his hand. "But somewhere between the contract and now, this became real for me. You became real for me. We agreed not to overthink what this was. I'm not overthinking. I'm just telling you the truth." Lena smiled tremulously. "We still have almost 2 years left on our contract, but I'd like to spend them actually trying. Not just performing for cameras or maintaining appearances, but genuinely building something together. If you want that too." Adrian was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing patterns on her palm. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft but certain. "When I was lying in that hallway yesterday, bleeding and trying to get back to you, all I could think was that I'd wasted so much time being careful, being strategic, treating this like a business arrangement when what I actually wanted was you. Just you. Not the performance or the public image or any of it. Just the woman who called me spoiled and challenged me and made me want to be better than I am." "You're already pretty good," Lena offered. "I'm ruthless and calculating, and I've done things I'm not proud of. But with you, I want to be the man you see when you look at me, the one who's worth falling for. Adrian pulled her closer with his good arm. So yes, let's try. Let's make this real and see where it goes. Lena kissed him, tasting coffee and hospital and possibility. When they broke apart, both smiling, the future felt less like a contract and more like a choice they were making together. Adrian was released from the hospital that afternoon with strict instructions to rest and attend follow-up appointments. Dmitri drove them back to the penthouse, where evidence of their disrupted wedding day had already been cleaned away. The blood-stained clothes removed, fresh flowers placed throughout, everything returned to pristine order. Victor wants a meeting tomorrow, Dmitri said as they entered. Kozlov's in custody, but there are details to handle. Territories to redistribute, associates to reassure. Tomorrow, Adrian agreed. Today I'm recovering with my wife. The words sent warmth through Lena. My wife. Said like he meant it. After Dmitri left, they stood together in the living room, suddenly uncertain. They'd shared space for weeks, but this felt different, more intimate, the acknowledgement of real feelings changing the dynamic. I should check on my mother, Lena said. Make sure she's okay after yesterday. Already done. Dr. Kim called this morning. Your mother came through the excitement with no complications. She's resting comfortably and sends her love. Adrian smiled. She also said to tell you that any man who fights off attackers at his own wedding is a keeper. She would say that. Smart woman. Adrian moved closer, his good hand finding her waist. We have the rest of the day to ourselves. No obligations, no appearances to maintain. Just us. What do you want to do? Lena looked at this man she'd married for practical reasons and fallen for, despite her better judgment. I want to know you, really know you. Not the public version or the business strategist. The real Adrian Volkov. That's a tall order. He's not very exciting. I'll be the judge of that. She took his hand, leading him to the sofa. Tell me something you've never told anyone else. Adrian settled beside her, thinking. When my mother was dying, I used to read to her, poetry mostly. Frost, Dickinson, Neruda. She loved the sound of the words even when the pain medication made it hard for her to follow the meaning. That's beautiful. My father thought it was weak, sentimental. He wanted me at business meetings, learning to run the empire. Instead, I sat with her and read poems. Adrian's expression was distant. After she died, I stopped reading poetry entirely. Couldn't bear the reminder. Lena understood loss and the ways it reshaped you. Do you miss it? Sometimes. The beauty of it. The way good poetry makes you feel things you didn't know you were capable of feeling. He looked at her. Being with you is kind of like that. Unexpected and intense and a little overwhelming. That might be the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Don't get used to it. I'm out of practice with romance. But he was smiling. They spent the afternoon talking, sharing pieces of themselves they'd kept hidden. Lena told him about her father's death, the construction accident that had destroyed her family's stability. Adrian shared stories about growing up Volkov, the pressure and violence and impossible expectations. I was 23 when I took over the family operations, he said. My father had just died. Heart attack, probably brought on by stress, and his refusal to show weakness by seeing a doctor. Victor was supposed to transition me slowly, but our competitors saw the change in leadership as an opportunity. What happened? 3 attempts on my life in 6 months. The last one killed 2 of my security team. Adrian's voice was flat, but Lena heard the pain underneath. I learned quickly that mercy was a luxury I couldn't afford, that showing any softness made me a target. So you became hard. I became what I needed to be to survive, to protect what was mine. He met her eyes. Until you walked into my life and called me spoiled and reminded me that there were other ways to be strong. I just spoke without thinking. You spoke honestly. That's rare in my world. Precious. Adrian pulled her closer. I don't want to be the hard, closed-off version of myself with you, Lena. I want to be someone who reads poetry again, who laughs without calculating the cost, who loves without fear. Can I tell you something? Always. I'm terrified that I'm not enough for this life, that I'll embarrass you or make mistakes or somehow fail at being Mrs. Volkov. Lena's voice was small. Everyone at that wedding was sophisticated and polished, and I'm just a waitress playing dress-up. First, you're not playing dress-up. You're exactly where you belong, beside me, challenging me, making me better. Adrian cupped her face. Second, half those sophisticated people at our wedding are terrified of you. What? Why? Because you have something they don't. My genuine respect and affection. They can buy influence and fake friendships, but what we have is real. That makes you more powerful than you realize. Lena wanted to believe it. Wanted to believe she could navigate this world of wealth and danger and complicated politics. Teach me, she said. Show me how to be the partner you need, not just for appearances, but really. You already are. But if you want to learn the game, I'll teach you. Adrian's smile turned slightly wicked. Fair warning, some of those lessons might be more enjoyable than others. Over the following weeks, Adrian became true to his word. He brought Lena into his business meetings, explaining the legitimate enterprises the family was building, a construction company securing major city contracts, a shipping logistics firm expanding into international trade, real estate developments that would reshape entire neighborhoods. Victor still runs certain legacy operations, Adrian explained during one meeting, the gray areas. But my focus is on building something sustainable and legal, something I can eventually hand down to the next generation without them inheriting enemies and blood debts. Lena sat in on negotiations, watching Adrian work. He was brilliant, strategic without being cruel, firm without being aggressive. She saw why people respected him, why his word carried weight. She also learned the social side. Irina became an unexpected ally, teaching Lena the unwritten rules of society functions. Never apologize for being yourself, Irina advised over lunch one afternoon. These people smell weakness. You're Adrian Volkov's wife. That means you're powerful. Act like it. I feel like an imposter. Everyone feels like an imposter at first. The secret is pretending you don't. Irina grinned. Besides, you have advantages they don't. You're genuinely kind. You work harder than any of them, and you married Adrian for more than his money, which, trust me, everyone has noticed and is either admiring or envious of. The truth was more complicated than that, but Lena didn't correct her. Her mother's health continued to improve. The experimental treatment was working better than anyone had dared hope. Within 2 months of the wedding, Susan was strong enough to leave the hospital for outpatient treatment. It's a miracle, doctor, Kim said during one appointment. The tumors are shrinking. Her blood work is improving. If this continues, we might actually beat this thing. Lena cried in Adrian's arms that night, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. Thank you, she whispered, for giving me this, for saving her. I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because you needed it, and I had the resources to help. Adrian held her close. Your mother gets to watch you build a life. That's worth more than any business deal. As spring turned to summer, Lena found herself settling into her new role. She attended charity events with Adrian, representing the family at various functions. She learned which photographers to smile for and which gossip columnists to avoid. She developed a presence, poised but warm, elegant but approachable. The society pages loved her. The new face of the Volkov Empire, one headline proclaimed, featuring a photo of Lena at a children's hospital fundraiser. But it was the private moments that mattered most. Evenings with Adrian, cooking dinner together in their massive kitchen. Weekends visiting her mother, Adrian charming Susan with stories and genuine interest in her recovery. Quiet nights on the terrace, watching the city lights, and talking about everything and nothing. 6 months into their marriage, Victor called a family meeting. Lena attended as Adrian's wife, no longer a nervous outsider, but an accepted member of the family. The transition is complete, Victor announced. Our legacy operations have been sold or shut down. As of today, the Volkov family is entirely legitimate. Construction, shipping, real estate, all clean, all legal, all sustainable. It was a victory decades in the making. Adrian had achieved what his father never could, transforming the family empire from crime syndicate to respected business entity. This doesn't mean we're soft, Victor continued, his eyes hard. We still protect our interests, but we do it through lawyers and contracts, not violence and threats. After the meeting, Adrian pulled Lena aside. This is what I wanted when I asked you to marry me. Legitimacy, respectability, a clean future. He smiled. You were part of that strategy, the sympathetic wife, the redemption story, but you became so much more. What did I become? My partner, my conscience, the reason I wanted to build something worth having in the first place. Adrian kissed her softly. I love you, Lena. I should have said it sooner, but I'm saying it now. I love you. The words crashed over her like a wave. I love you too. Have for months, actually. I was just waiting for you to catch up. Always one step ahead of me. Someone has to be. They celebrated that night, just the two of them, ordering too much takeout and opening an expensive bottle of champagne. Adrian read her poetry, Neruda's love sonnets, his voice rough with emotion. Lena listened and cried happy tears and felt impossibly lucky. 1 year into their marriage, Lena woke to find Adrian already awake, watching her in the early morning light. What? She asked, self-conscious. Just thinking about how different my life is from a year ago. He brushed hair from her face. I was alone, guarded, going through the motions of building an empire without really caring about the outcome. And now? Now I wake up next to you. I have a reason to come home instead of just somewhere to sleep. I'm building a future I actually want to live in. Adrian's smile was soft. You changed everything, Lena Volkov. We changed everything. Together. Later that day, they visited her mother at the house Adrian had bought her, a comfortable cottage with a garden and plenty of room for the nurse who helped with her ongoing care. Susan was in remission now, healthy enough to plant tomatoes and complain about her daughter not visiting often enough. You're glowing, Susan observed, serving them tea in her sunny kitchen. Both of you. Marriage agrees with you. It does, Lena agreed, catching Adrian's eye across the table. I knew it would. Even at the beginning, when I suspected there was more strategy than romance involved, I knew you two would figure it out. Susan's smile was knowing. Sometimes the best loves start from practical places. You build the foundation first, then the feelings come later. You're very wise, Mom. I'm old, and I've been paying attention. Susan reached across to squeeze both their hands. I'm proud of you, sweetheart, of the woman you've become, the life you've built. After they left, Adrian drove them to the Riverside Park where they'd held their wedding reception, now restored and peaceful. I've been thinking, he said as they walked along the water, about our contract. Lena's heart skipped. They still had another year before the contract's end, before the agreed-upon divorce and settlement. What about it? I want to renegotiate. Adrian stopped, turning to face her. The original terms don't apply anymore. We're not playing roles or maintaining appearances. This is real. So what are you proposing? That we tear up the contract. Forget the timeline, forget the settlement terms. Just be married because we choose it, not because we signed papers agreeing to it. He pulled a small box from his pocket. And that we make it official with a ring that means something. Inside was a simple emerald band, elegant and understated, nothing like the massive diamond engagement ring. It's beautiful. Emeralds are supposed to represent truth, loyalty, and new beginnings. Adrian took the ring out, holding it up. I want all of that with you, Lena, not because of a deal we made, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Lena's vision blurred with tears. What about the $10 million? The terms we agreed to? Keep it. It's yours regardless. Consider it payment for putting up with me for a year. Adrian's smile was crooked, but I'm hoping you'll stick around for reasons that have nothing to do with money. I will. I am. I love you, you impossible man. Lena held out her hand, watching as he slid the emerald ring onto her finger beside the original wedding band. Yes to tearing up the contract. Yes to choosing this. Yes to everything. Adrian kissed her there by the river, in the place where their wedding had been attacked and their lives had changed forever. But this kiss was different from all the others, not performed for anyone, not calculated for effect, not part of any strategy. Just two people who had found each other in impossible circumstances and decided to build something real. 18 months after their wedding, Lena and Adrian hosted a charity gala for the foundation they'd created together, an organization that helped families afford critical medical treatment. It was Susan's idea originally, a way to give others the chance that Adrian had given Lena's mother. The event raised $3 million. Lena gave a speech about second chances and the kindness of strangers and the importance of helping those who couldn't help themselves. Adrian stood off to the side, watching her with undisguised pride and love. She's remarkable, Irina commented, appearing beside him. You chose well, cousin. I got lucky, Adrian corrected. She chose me back. That's the remarkable part, Irina grinned. A year and a half ago, I had my doubts about this marriage. Thought it was too fast, too strategic, too much Adrian being Adrian, but you two proved me wrong. We proved ourselves wrong too. The best surprises usually do. Irina clinked her champagne glass against his. To unexpected love stories. To finding exactly what you need when you weren't looking for it. That night, back at the penthouse, Lena and Adrian stood on the terrace overlooking the city. The same view they'd had from the beginning, but everything was different now. Do you ever think about that night at the gala? Lena asked. When I spilled wine on you? Constantly. Best accident of my life. Mine too. She leaned into him, his arms coming around her. I came to that event just trying to survive another shift, trying to make enough money to keep my mother alive one more week. I had no idea my entire life was about to change. Would you have believed it if someone told you that you'd marry the man whose suit you ruined? Never. I would have thought they were crazy. Lena smiled. But then the whole thing was crazy. A contract marriage that turned into real love. A business arrangement that became a partnership. A calculated strategy that transformed into the best decision I ever made. We make a good team. We make a great team. Adrian turned her to face him, his pale eyes soft in the city lights. I have something to tell you. Should I be worried? That depends on how you feel about major life changes. He took a breath. I want to start a family with you. Actual children, not just foundations and businesses. A future we build together in every sense. Lena's heart soared. You want kids? I want kids with you. I want Sunday mornings with chaos and laughter. I want to teach our daughter to be as strong as her mother. I want to show our son that powerful men can also be kind. Adrian's voice was thick with emotion. I want everything with you, Lena. Everything we never planned but somehow can't live without. Yes, Lena whispered. Yes to all of it. They sealed it with a kiss, standing on the terrace where they'd shared so many conversations and revelations. Below them, the city pulsed with life. Around them, the penthouse that had once been just Adrian's had become their home. Ahead of them, a future they were choosing together. 2 years after that fateful night at the charity gala, Lena Zhao Volkov stood in the nursery of their penthouse, holding her 3-month-old daughter while her 1-year-old son napped in his crib. Adrian appeared in the doorway, his expression soft with contentment. How's Elena? He asked, referring to their daughter named after both their mothers. Perfect. Like her father. Lena smiled as he crossed to kiss her forehead, then the baby's. Your mother visited today. She brought more baby clothes even though we have enough to dress triplets. She's happy, healthy, getting to be a grandmother. Adrian's voice held wonder. Sometimes I still can't believe all this is real. Sometimes I can't either. Lena looked around the nursery. Soft yellows and whites, carefully chosen furniture, walls decorated with storybook characters. Do you remember what you told me that first day? When you explained the contract? That this was a business arrangement with clear terms and expectations. And look at us now. 2 kids, a foundation helping hundreds of families, a marriage that's real in every way that matters. She shifted Elena in her arms. We broke every term of that contract. Best decision I ever made. Adrian wrapped his arms around them both. Though technically you broke it first by making me fall in love with you. I did no such thing. You fell all on your own. True, but you made it impossible not to. They stood together in the quiet nursery, a family built from impossible circumstances and sustained by genuine love. Downstairs, Susan was probably making dinner, still healthy 3 years after a cancer diagnosis that should have killed her. Dmitri and Irina were coming over later for their weekly family dinner. Victor had sent a card congratulating them on Elena's birth, written in his harsh but sincere script. The Volkov Empire was thriving, construction projects reshaping the city skyline, shipping contracts expanding international trade, real estate developments providing affordable housing, all legitimate, all sustainable, all something Adrian could be proud to pass down to his children. But more than the business success or the social acceptance or the wealth they'd accumulated, what mattered was this, these quiet moments, this family they'd built, this love they'd chosen. Lena had walked into that charity gala a desperate waitress with no options and no hope. She'd spilled wine on a dangerous man and spoken without thinking. She'd agreed to an impossible arrangement to save her mother's life. And somehow, impossibly, she'd found everything she'd never known she needed. Adrian had been looking for legitimacy and respectability, a strategic wife to improve his public image and ease his transition to legal business. He'd offered a contract expecting a performance. Instead, he'd found a partner, a love, a future worth fighting for. Their marriage had started with a lie, a pretense of love constructed for public consumption. But the lie had become truth, the performance had become reality, and the contract had become a covenant. They honored not because they had to, but because they wanted to. As Adrian kissed his wife and daughter in the soft light of the nursery, his son sleeping peacefully nearby, he thought about that night at the gala, the moment their lives collided, the accident that changed everything, the best accident of his life. And Lena, holding her daughter close while her husband's arms encircled them both, thought about impossible choices and unexpected grace and the strange paths that lead us to exactly where we need to be. She'd come to that gala just trying to survive. Instead, she'd found a reason to truly live. Their story had started with wine staining a white suit and a sharp word spoken in frustration. It had continued through contracts and calculated risks and careful performances. But it had transformed into something real and lasting and beautiful. A love built on honesty, sustained by partnership, and strengthened by the challenges they'd faced together. The Volkov empire would continue. The foundation would help countless families. The children would grow up loved and protected and taught that power without compassion was meaningless. But tonight, in this moment, what mattered was simply this. Two people who'd found each other against impossible odds, built a life from broken pieces, and chose love every single day. The contract was long gone, burned in a private ceremony a year into their marriage. The settlement had been donated to their foundation, transformed into help for others facing impossible choices. What remained was real, permanent, chosen, a family built on sacrifice that had become joy. A marriage that had started as strategy and evolved into devotion. A love story that proved sometimes the best things in life begin with spilled wine, sharp words, and the courage to take an impossible chance. And as the city lights flickered beyond the windows and their children slept peacefully and tomorrow waited with all its promise and possibility, Lena and Adrian Volkov held each other close and felt impossibly, perfectly grateful for the accident that had brought them together. The wine-stained beginning to their forever